is going on, everyone? So in this week's video, I want to talk about something that I've kind of talked about in years past. It's been quite a while, but this is something that kind of comes up now that I'm kind of getting ready for my spring trip. And this is the topic of secrecy of locations when it comes to landscape photography. And I'm getting ready for my spring trip. If the weather cooperates, I plan on doing a backpacking trip that could be anywhere from one night to maybe 6 nights or so, just kind of depending on the conditions and what I find. But I'll be returning to a canyon that I visited for the first time last year. And this particular canyon is one that I did a lot of research on. I mean, I checked out satellite maps. I kind of was looking at the form of the canyon. I saw that there's some trees down in the canyon. I saw there's some pretty high walls. I saw some hints of desert varnish on the satellite imagery. But when I was actually searching for the name of the canyon and looking for pictures that were shot there to kind of give a feeling for what it looks like on the ground, I really couldn't find very much. I mean, there was a few reports here and there, but there really was not much information. And it was clear to me that it's a canyon that really hadn't been, it wasn't well known by photographers. I mean, it was known by some different circles, but not really by photographers, which had me a little bit concerned in some ways, because maybe I'd hike all the way in there and maybe there just really wasn't anything to photograph. But one of the things I've certainly learned through the years is that there's almost always something to photograph. There's almost always some degree of potential. And so long as you have a canyon with some walls of desert varnish and some reflected light and some trees, there's gonna be something to find kind of in those situations. But I was a little intimidated when I hiked into that canyon just because I didn't fully know what to expect. And I didn't really spend much time there, mostly because the weather was kind of threatening. It wasn't really ideal conditions, but I'm really glad I went because there are 2 scenes that I photographed, and those 2 scenes ended up being probably 2 of my favorite shots from all of 2017. One of them was a juniper tree kind of on a sandstone ledge with this big wall in the background. The whole scene was in reflected light, just a beautiful tree, really nice shape to it. And then the other shot was of this cottonwood tree that was kind of broken in half, still surviving and thriving despite the fact that the greater part of the tree fell down. And again, a big wall in the background, reflected light, desert varnish. And those 2 photos are ones that I really enjoy those photos because I know that I worked really hard for those. This wasn't just an iconic scene you show up and you already have the composition set. It was a matter of kind of exploring and kind of seeing all this whole new area, which was really cool. But when I was putting together the videos and then when I was recording the videos in the field, and I'll link those up top there, I was really careful not to mention the name of that canyon. I was also careful not to mention really where I was. I was a bit misleading at times. I flipped the video from time to time, just because I didn't really want to be the person that made this canyon more known to photographers. I think that we have a responsibility when we post pictures or on social media, when we post videos on social media, that a lot of people can potentially view these pictures and these videos, and it can have an impact. Kind of like if you're walking through like a meadow or something like that, one set of footprints is not going to do too much, but if you have a whole bunch of people following behind you and kind of going that same area, there can be an impact. It can trample things in a really bad way. So one of my interesting observations though is that once I posted those videos of this new canyon I went to, I didn't have a single person email me asking me, hey, where is that canyon? Or I didn't have a person, sending me a direct message on whether it's Instagram or Twitter or whatever saying, hey, that's a cool canyon, can you tell me where it is? Because there's so much of that out there. But I think I've kind of made it clear a little bit in the past that I really don't like to give away that information because I really don't want to be the person that kind of makes that known. And I think in some ways there's an expectation of sharing that kind of knowledge with people, with the sense of community when it comes to social media, sharing the pictures, the videos and all that. And by refusing to share that information, it can come across as elitist or something along those lines, when that's really not what it's about. It's really about if you really want to visit these locations, you can find them. You can do the same sort of research that I did and kind of look at the maps, kind of figure things out. And I think when you have a little bit of a higher barrier for entry, the people that do go there are a bit more respectful of the area. So when it comes to revealing locations and sharing information, I think it's important to have kind of a don't ask, don't tell kind of policy when it comes to that kind of stuff. If there's an area that is a little bit off the beaten path, if there's an area that you really enjoy, keep it within like your circle. You really shouldn't be putting that information out there to the world and posting GPS information and doing detailed write-ups on this sort of stuff, because even though there will be a lot of really good people with good intentions that want to visit these same locations, there's also a certain percentage of the people that are just kind of troublemakers, and they're going to go there, they're going to deface things, they're going to trample things, and they may not have the best interests of the location in mind, because I've seen the impact of some of that stuff in the past. If you take, for example, the road that takes you to Racetrack in Death Valley, that used to be a really beat up road. And you have to have a kind of more of a specialized off-roady kind of vehicle with really good tires to get there. You had this higher barrier for entry. And then when the road was really well graded and you can show up there kind of in a passenger car, now you start having issues with rocks being taken and vandalism and people walking onto the mud flats and leaving footprints for years and years and years. So I just think it's important to have a sort of that don't ask, don't tell policy when it comes to locations that we hold close in kind of personal locations. So I'd be curious what your guys' thoughts are on the matter, what you think about, sharing information, what's too much, what's, anything along those lines. But in any case, I'm looking forward to getting back out there again, sharing the experience, bringing you along for the ride, and we'll see you around next week.